Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Hupx and Argus joint workshop on the guarantees of origin and the new market that's launching in Hungary via Hupx. Very happy to be here. Very nice to see so many people attending the event, no doubt from all across the continent. Just as an introduction, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Justin Colley. I'm the editor of the European Electricity Report and the Net Zero Europe Report at Argus Media in London. So I've been looking at the GOOs market very carefully for many years now. And it's very exciting to see that Hungary is launching this market and to see increasing demand across the whole of Europe and the whole of the world for guarantees of origin and generally the renewables markets. I've got a really exciting event today and some really great speakers. Some really interesting presentations, which will be followed up by a panel discussion at the end. There are a few things that I just want to run through briefly before we get things underway and we have some introductions from some of our speakers. So for those of you that are using the browser, I would recommend downloading the Teams app. There's still time to do that. We've got a good couple of hours on this event, so it would be really beneficial if you're able to get the Teams app. It's also free on mobiles as well if you're just connecting via a mobile. But this means that you'll be able to participate in the Q&A too, to submit some questions. So if it's possible to do that, would recommend it. However, if you're only able to do it in a browser, that's also fine. So either way, it's not really a problem. A couple of other things, just to let you know that the cameras and microphones will be disabled for the full event. Just so that we can obviously give priority to the speakers and the panel discussion towards the end. Would recommend not raising your hands during the event, but if you want to drop any reactions in the chats or through the emoticons, then always be happy to see those. Good to see a bit of audience participation, even if it is only virtual. And I'll remind through the event, just to keep you informed that this is going on, but there is a Q&A at the end. So any questions that you have on any of the presentations or more generally about the Hungarian or wider markets, just put the questions in the chat function and then we will come to them at the end. So we'll have the presentations, the panel discussion, and then there will be a Q&A. So any questions that you want to ask during the event, please do raise them there and we will get to them at the end. Just one other mention as well, as we did inform you through the GDPR notice, the event will be recorded and the recordings will be shared on Hupx's social media channels and the presentations will be online afterwards as well. So yeah, thanks for listening to all that. I'm sure we're all prepared now for a very good event. Before we get started with the speakers, we're going to have a welcome from Dr. Mátyás Vajta, who's the CEO of Hupx. Mátyás, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, Justin. Thanks. We're fine.
Great. Very exciting to have this event here. What can you tell us about your general overview of the market launching in Hungary and what we're going to hear today?
Okay, thanks a lot. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the workshop so-called Shades of Green in Energy Trading, a joint event of Hupx, Hungarian Power Exchange and Argus Media. Yeah, to answer to you, Justin, I can report you that the sun is shining in Budapest. And this means two things. So one, that we are in a special good mood. And the second, maybe more importantly, that the PVs in Hungary, which are over 3,000 megawatts, are producing electricity with full power. So I think we have everything set for a good workshop today. Our horizon is turning green. Hupx is going to introduce the first organized guarantees of origin market in Hungary, drawing an additional green spot on Europe's geo map. Hupx, via these new guarantees of origin market, will play an additional role in the energy transition, besides of operating a very liquid day-ahead and intraday electricity market. As probably most of you know, bilateral transactions have been available in Hungary with regards of GOs. The primary role of our new organized and transparent marketplace is to provide reference price regarding guarantees of origin. This is what Hupx can and will bring as an additional benefit. Our platform will bring together demand and supply, so trading will be more simple and safe, and we will provide reliable price signals. My colleagues will explain to you during the workshop that Hupx is going to introduce a platform enabling anonymous trading and offer financial clearing and settlement services in order to ensure reliable trading processes, similarly to our already existing and well-established markets. This will support the development of the Hungarian and regional electricity market and the integration of renewables. This new initiative is allowing us to work hand in hand with the most committed companies who do not only want, but are ready to literally act for carbon neutrality. This vision inspires and motivates us to deliver the best available solutions for the benefit to all of us. As you will learn during the workshop, we will start with the so-called single seller model, where the supply comes from the GOs of the feed-in tariff system. But this is only the beginning of our green story. We are already working on the second phase, the GO premium, involving renewable energy coming outside of the feed-in tariff system, which we plan to go live also in the near future. And what is more, first, it is expected that according to RED II and potentially the gas decarbonization package, gas guarantees of origin may be also introduced on the Hungarian market. And second, I'm pleased to announce that HUPX Group started to work to introduce the organized marketplace for white certificates too. So this is how we envisage our common sustainable future in short and mid-term. And I hope that you will be there with us when these new shades of color will appear on the palette of the Hupx Group's drawing board. Finally, I would like to thank Argus Media for partnering with us and infusing their expertise into this event. We highly appreciate that the representatives of AIB and the Hungarian Energy Regulator are here with us and will share their inputs. We are also grateful to our panelists from ČEZ, MAVIR, Matt, there will be a comment on that, and SDS Group for their readiness to share experiences. And finally, thanks to my colleagues who put a lot of efforts in the preparation and organization of this event. So thank you all for your contributions. Now I hope that we are fit to go for a nice event. So dear speakers and Justin, the floor is yours. Thanks for joining us, and remember, let's stay connected. Thanks.
Mátyás, very nice, very warm introduction. Thank you very much for that. And just to reiterate from our side, very happy from Argus Media to be cooperating with you. And good to know the sun is shining there. The market is developing and existing right now as this event is taking place. It's also sunny in London, so we're all in a good mood and very much looking forward to a positive event. Okay, we've got 4 presentations now, and then we will have a panel discussion and a Q&A. Again, just a reminder, any questions that you have on any of the presentations, please put them in the chat and we will come to them at the end. So first of all, let me introduce Ivar Munch Clausen, who is chair of the Association of Issuing Bodies board, the AIB, who's done huge amounts of work in developing the guarantees of origin across Europe and developing a standardized tradable market. So it's great to see somebody with such expertise going to give us a presentation and share some insight on the markets. Ivar, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. The sun is also shining in Oslo, in fact, so sunny all across Europe today. Unfortunately, Norwegian renewable production is not based on sun, but based on hydro, and it's been a very dry winter and a very dry spring. So even though I personally like the sun, actually from a renewable side, it should have been raining today, but I'll live with the sun anyway. I think that's personally, I prefer the sun, so that's good.
I'm sure there'll be more rain on the way at some point, so enjoy the sun while it lasts.
Let's hope so, yes.
Ivar, very much looking forward to your presentation, so I will pass on to you and let you get started.
Yeah, let's see if I'm able to do it like we did in the training. because it looks, yeah, there we are. So I can now, let me see. So just
looks all good. Yeah,
we're all good.
Yep.
Yes, good. So thank you for inviting me to this very exciting event. My name is, as we have heard now, Ivar Clausen, and I am the board chair of the AIB, the Association of Issuing Bodies. And the AIB is responsible for the HUPX standard. I'll come a bit back to it or touch it a little bit later, but that's the voluntary standard for GOs. That is the dominant standard across Europe, both the European Union member countries and also the EEA, the wannabe European Union member countries like Norway and Iceland. So I know that, or I don't know, but I've been told that most of you are well informed of the structure of the GO system, but I would still like to, and let's see if I can, there, yes, I would still like to go through the history a bit and explain why we are organized the way we are when it comes to the GO, and not the GO market, because from my side, from the Association of Issuing Bodies, we don't look that much into the market. We look into the system and the structure and the formalities and everything around the market, and then we let the market players develop the market. So I'm not going to talk that much about the market. I'm going to talk about the foundation on which you can build a market. So the GO system has acquired a long history by now. The very first international transaction of a guarantee of origin was between Norway and the Netherlands. And the idea of trading the green or the attributes of power production apart from the physical trade of electricity that idea came to be in conversations between Norway and the Netherlands. So that's where this whole idea of separating the electricity, the physical market, from the attributes which is connected to that physical production, that came in a, yeah, well, wouldn't it be nice to see if we were able to distinguish between different types of power supply and make those who have a willingness to pay extra for specific power attributes, make a market where that is possible. So that's where the whole idea comes from. And for me, it's important when we discuss guarantees of origin to always remember that the guarantees of origin is not an attempt to mimic the physical market in any way. It is a conscious choice to make a split between the physical electricity market and the trade of attributes connected to the energy production, and to clearly distinguish between these two. So as time has gone on, as time has passed, from the first trades, I think 25 years ago, before it was any official recognition, any EU recognition of the guarantees of origin, then the GO instrument has become more and more important in EU legislation and more recognized as an important tool for the European Union in reaching its renewable targets. So therefore, it is very good that we now see that the GO system is becoming more and more used all across Europe, and varieties, not exactly the AIB or the HUPX system, is becoming more and more used also outside of Europe. So this thought of tracking attributes outside of the physical mix is gaining traction. And we've seen with the RED 2 and the FiT for 55, or the proposed RED 3, that the GO system, the thought of tracking attributes outside of physical mix, is still important for the European Union. I'm not saying that it is the only part of the solution, but it is a part of the solution. So together with sorry, missing the words here, but together with other ways of supporting the green transition, the GO is one of many tools in the toolbox. So you all know probably this structure, and I've said something about it, but key always in my mind is to make sure that we have a physical flow of electricity through the grid and through to the consumers, both industry and businesses and private consumers. And then on the side of this, we have a purely financial structure of guarantees of origin, where the attributes of different energy production can be purchased, and the goal of this purchase of buying these attributes is the disclosure, meaning that when I buy a guarantee of origin on or buy a power supply deal to my home with the guarantees of origin, I'm not saying to the world that I procure renewable energy, but I'm saying that the amount of renewable energy produced or consumed by me, the amount of energy consumed by me, an equal amount of renewable energy has been produced, and I am the only one who can claim the ownership to those attributes. So it's very clear. It's not physical delivery, it's financial delivery of attributes. For electricity, this has been the case for quite some time, and the total market for electricity is becoming very big. I'll show you some numbers later. But as you know, the same structure is also being set up for gas. The red 2 clearly defines that guarantees of origin should be possible to have issued for gas and other energy carriers, such as cooling and heating. Currently, we haven't seen much development in the other energy carriers other than gas and electricity, but we see now in the AIB and we see and across Europe, we see a lot of development in the gas sector moving towards establishing a guarantee of origin system and preparing for trades of guarantees of origin also for gas. And this brings a lot of complexity to the system. I mean, it used to be very clear, simple, easy to understand. Electricity is I'm an economist, and electricity is, of course, the best good you can talk about from an economist point of view, being that it's so homogeneous and it's easy to distribute and etc. But gas, a bit more complex, different grades of gas and different qualities based on how you produce, etc. And also, when we have multiple energy carriers, we come into the problem of energy conversion, because you can use one energy carrier to convert into another energy carrier and then maybe convert back again before consumption. And then the entire tracking of the initial attributes becomes much more important. So the big challenge that we are facing now on European level, it is not about tracing electricity. It's not about tracing gas. We know how to do that. We've traced electricity for 20 years. We know that we can do more or less the same for gas. But what is going to be the challenge is how to make sure that we keep the credibility of our system also when a piece of energy can be converted back and forth between different energy carriers from the time when it is produced until the time when it is consumed. And I know if there are engineers here, of course, I am aware that energy is not consumed, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just assume that we consume energy. So the next important thing that we are working on now is making sure that we have a system which is robust and clear also when it comes to conversion between energy carriers. So so that is complex, but we are working very dedicated on it. So what do we need in order to have a reliable geo system? I know that you are mostly in the audience, probably from the trader side. And last week, I was in the REC market meeting, the annual very important geo conference in Amsterdam. And most of the people there were, of course, from the trader side. I represent the other side, the government side, the issuing bodies, as we call them in the geo world, where we're not as into all the possibilities that can be done within the market, but we're more into making sure that it is reliable and trustworthy and maybe a bit boring, but at least that that it's very, very trustworthy and that nothing happens without anyone knowing exactly why. So from the issuing body side, the component body side, we are strict when it comes to making sure that only the good guys are allowed into our registries. We have strict rules for registering production devices. We have strict rules for geo issuing, for making sure that the measurement values that comes into the systems are reliable, etc. The transfers are 100% reliable, and the cancellation, of course, the most important part maybe for a geo cancellation is our code word for use. So when a GO is cancelled, we must make sure that it's removed from circulation and that everything works out well. So this is sort of the goal of the AIB, to make sure that all these processes are done in a secure and trustworthy system. So you've heard the word GO, guarantees of origin, several times. I may also have said the word HUPX, being the European Energy Certificate System, which is the AIB trademarked standard for guarantees of origin. This is a voluntary standard that the member states does not have to comply to, but in order to trade with other AIB members, you have to comply with this HUPX standard. So I'll go a bit more into the details about the Association of Issuing Bodies, and I see that time is running faster than expected, so I'll speed up a bit. Yeah, we have been around for 20 odd years. We're a non-profit organization. We have, for the first time in our history, last year, we actually got an office in Brussels, so now we have a formal physical address. But as you can see, most of Europe is represented in or is member of the AIB. Maybe that this map is not 100. Oh, yes, thank you. The map was 100% updated. I downloaded it last week. So you see Hungary is also marked green here. So that is very good. I feared that I would offend you all, but luckily I got the updated map. Our geographical scope, and that's a bit important in these days. The AIB has taken a strategic decision to say that our geographical scope is the European Union, the EFTA countries, and the energy community. So we draw a clear line outside of the energy community. And right now there is a lot of interest of development of geos also to the more eastern parts and also northern parts of Africa. So we are in dialogue and sharing our competence, but we do not wish to expand our geographic scope outside of this geographic area. It's important to understand the AIB. We have a standard we govern. We have a lot of members, and they're very different type of members. We have regulators, market operators, TSOs, ministries, and power exchanges, etc. So our goal is to combine the interest of the different countries being represented by these different types of members and still be agile and move ahead. Not always that easy. Yeah, I'll skip this. So why do we need an organization doing this? We have already a standard. We have European legislation. So why do we need to have an organization on top of this? Why can't we just trade like we do with other commodities without necessarily having this much extra overhead? Well, this can be a bit naive, but still, if you have the problem to create a device to deliver AC power to any device needing power, well, we've come up with quite a lot of different solutions that don't necessarily speak well to one another. So this poor guy needs we need more firm standards than what you have in the pan-European legislation in order to get the job done. So you can say that we have the European directives, the RED II. Then there is a standard, the 16325 standard, which is being revised, which goes even one step further. And on top of this, you have very minute details defined in the EEX standard. And of course, as you know, changing directives is a complex job. Changing a pan-European standard defined by the CEN, which is a rather slow-moving process. And on top of this, you have the EEX, which is changing the EEX is also a slow-moving process, but still much quicker than the two other parts of this. So together, these three make out a system where you have a base, which is changed seldom and complex, which is changed seldom, and then you have other layers that are easier to change, but so that you can adapt to the market needs at a pace which is acceptable. I would say probably not acceptable if you ask the market players, but if you combine the needs of the market players and the needs of the issuing bodies, well, I think maybe we're about where we should be. So as I said, not too long ago, the gas part of the GO market was established. Still not many gas trades being done, but the AIB reorganized, and it was actually before the pandemic. The last meeting, physical meeting we had before the pandemic, we made the final touches on the organization of the AIB in order to make sure that we are from a governance perspective ready to tackle gas GOs in addition to the electricity GOs. So we have now set up a completely separate governance structure for gas and electricity, and also horizontal for those parts of the standard which is common between gas and electricity, and also dealing with conversion. So that's how we are set up from an organization point of view. Yeah, I talked a bit about the framework, and I think it's important. You don't need to sort of look into it or know it all by heart, but even on the EEX rules level, which is a quite thick document, we also have a lot of details in our subsidiary documents. We have, especially when it comes to how to transfer certificates, etc., we have a very deliberate and very detailed standard in order to make sure that a transaction of a GO from Norway to Germany, or from Hungary to Greece, or Greece, bad example, sorry, not connected, but from Hungary to Norway, etc., that everything works out fine. And one important part of the AIB that I didn't mention earlier is the fact that we trust one another internally. In addition to all these, to the standard and the hub, which I'm going to touch upon in my last minutes, we also have a structure of internal audits of the AIB members. And this is very important because just as a message structure with everyone talking to everyone would get messy, a structure where everyone had to do to perform audits on every other members, and we have 31 members in the AIB right now, that would be a very complex job. So therefore, we also internally perform regular audits of all members to ensure that we can trust the guarantees of origin and the registry in each member, and thereby I, as a representative of Norway and operating the Norwegian registry, I trust the French and German and Swedish and Wallonian and Flemish and Dutch and Hungarian and all these other registries. I trust the quality of the GOs issued in these registries because the AIB has performed an audit. So this is also key because GOs are basically the trading in trust, and in order to make it to make it manageable, we have developed a system where we trust one another based on the audits we perform on one another. And I'm being audited this fall, and I can tell you it's a scrutinizing process. And I think Ákos also knows that the initial audit from AIB is it's a thorough exercise, and it's designed to be so in order for all the other members to be able to trust the Hungarian GOs and the Hungarian GO system. Yeah, and this one I hate, so I just click through it to this status. Maybe it's a very very someone in AIB really loves putting animations on these slides, and sometimes I forget removing all of them before I do a presentation, and I'm sorry I forgot on this one. But I'll stop here. You see, we have four in a theoretical setup. We could have four registries, and you need to communicate with all of these four. These four. When we first set up between Norway and the Netherlands, it was simple. It was done by emails between Norway and the Netherlands, and then it grew and grew and grew, and we came up more or less with what I like to call spaghetti communication. Everybody talking to everyone, and it simply doesn't add up. So the AIB hub was introduced, and now all the registries connect to the AIB hub. A lot of validation and a lot of validation happens in the AIB hub. And in order to connect to the AIB hub, a lot of quality assurance has been done before. And then when we are all connected to the hub, we don't need to be connected to one another. And maintaining the connection to Europe and all the European registries is much, much simpler. So in addition to the rule book, the audits, then it's the hub, which are the three foundations or the three legs of the Association of Issuing Body, the AIB. And it's the development of these three legs and the trustworthiness of these three legs that gives us our mission or license to operate and our role in the European GO market. And let's see. And of course, in addition to being standard and trustworthy, a hub is also much more efficient, much more cheaper for the members than maintaining interfaces with 30 plus other registries. And also by having the hub, it's a good place where we can collect statistics and where we can also do fraud prevention, because there are not only nice people around, and some want to do fraud also in the GO business, and therefore it's important that we have a good source of statistics and data to make sure that we can monitor the trades that go on between registries in order to catch anything unusual going on and alerting Europol and national tax authorities, etc., which we have a very good cooperation with. So I think that my 25 minutes are up, and I hope that this was useful for you, and I'll stick around for the Q&A session later. But please, I may be a couple of minutes late for the Q&A session, so if you have any questions for me, put them at the end. So I'll be there for the last part of the Q&A session.
Very nice, Ivar. Great presentation, and it's nice to see the clap emojis coming on. So yeah, please do show your appreciation for Ivar. Yeah, very informative, and obviously key to really get across the importance of the role of the AIB in terms of facilitating all these markets and allowing new markets like Hungary to join and have a cross-border trade and open and transparent markets. So yes, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the wider work that you're doing in terms of developing the markets.
Yeah, we do our best, but as I say, sometimes I don't think I think the market players think we move too slow, but we could have been moving much slower. So I think we actually do quite a good job in balancing this movement forward and also making sure that we get everyone on board. Because if we split the issuing bodies of Europe into those moving too far, or those who really want to be progressive and move ahead, and those who are more operating, who are more not so eager to move forward, if we're not able to combine this, it will be much more complicated for everyone. So sometimes we move slowly, but it's not out of laziness, but it's out of making sure that everyone is on board before we move forward.
Yep, that's a very fair comment, absolutely. And no, I think you are being very progressive. We can see there are going to be new things coming. So I think you're getting the balance right. So keep it up. Thanks, Ivar. As Ivar mentioned, the Q&A will be held at the end of the session. So any questions that you have for Ivar, please drop them in the Q&A chat, and we will come to them at the end. So thank you, and let's move on to our next presentation now. So if I can welcome Ákos Hamburger from the Hungarian energy regulator MEKH, who's going to talk about Hungary and the AIB and what we can expect in terms of changes and possibilities in the future. Ákos, how are you doing?
Hello, greetings everybody. Do you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. Very nice to see you. How are you doing?
It's great that the sun is shining here in Budapest, but I'm a bit cold. I try to do my best. Do you see my presentation?
We had it a second ago. If you just have the screen share option up, then it should pop back up.
Now you see it?
Yep, I can see it now.
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. And now I start my presentation. I represent MEKH, the Hungarian National Regulatory Authority for Electricity. I am very grateful for this opportunity. So first, a short introduction of the Hungarian Energy Authority before going into the details. So MEKH was established as Hungarian Energy Office back in 1994. And it changed its name to MEKH and became an independent regulatory authority in 2013. MEKH was responsible for the whole energy sector, including electricity, gas, and district heating sectors. And in 2013, it became responsible also for water utility, waste management, and energy efficiency as well. So as you can see, guarantees of origin is only one topic among many others for us, but MEKH realized its importance in the past years, and important achievements were reached. I really hope that we can go on with these achievements, and we will have and the Hungarian sector will have success with these topics. Another slide before going into details about the GO system. A very short introduction of the Hungarian energy mix and electricity production. The Hungarian renewable energy electricity generation is around 13%. So this is not as high as in other countries where the natural endowments are better, but there was plenty of time we could reach this share, and it's growing today as well. As you can see, there has been a very significant increase in solar PV generation in the last years, and this trend is still ongoing. The most PVs today benefit from the GAD feed-in tariff support scheme. So most of this generation will be concerned in the GO auctions organized by HUPX. And now some words about the past of MEKH as issuing body. MEKH was appointed as issuing body of electricity GOs back in 2013 through the amendment of the Electricity Act and the new governmental decree, the GO decree, contained the detailed rules regarding GOs. The registry operation started only 1 year later, in April 2014. Unfortunately, there were some shortcomings in the regulation. There was no link between GOs and disclosure. a separate decree regulated electricity mix disclosure obligation of suppliers, and they could use their own data, their calculations for disclosure and not GOs. So the disclosure statements could have been contradicting between separate suppliers. In connection with this, we didn't have the so-called residual mix calculation, which is also an important thing if we would like to disclose reliable and trustful information to consumers. Yes, but MEKH contributed the AIB in their European attribute mix calculation with domestic data service. And in the last years, we also participated in the so-called KERES projects that were among national regulatory authorities and ministries around Europe, where the European Union, in order to better implement the regulations of the directive, the provisions of the directives. This project gave important impressions, and we get to know good practices in other European countries. So cooperation with the AIB and through these KERES projects was very useful for MEKH. Here you can see two figures about the market development. As you can see, there was a small and slowly developing, but developing market of Hungarian GOs in the last years. The first cancellations occurred in 2015. And as you can see, the majority of the GOs that were used for consumption in Hungary was foreign GO, were foreign GOs, and the Hungarian GOs couldn't be exported because Hungary was not part of the AIB or the AIB hub, But is also important that the market was relatively small, and that was only a small share in the total Hungarian electricity consumption, the usage of the GOs. Last year, only 2.5% of the Hungarian electricity consumption was covered with GOs. The second figure indicates the share of energy sources among the GOs that were cancelled or recognized from abroad. The biggest amount, of course, was foreign hydro, because a lot of hydro GOs are on the European market. Among the domestic GOs, biomass had the greatest share. But in the last couple of years, PV started to rise. And last year, domestic PV GOs were the most. And then in such a situation was published the Clean Energy Package, and that included the new Renewable Energy Directive. And it included some new provisions regarding GOs, especially the supported ones. Then we started a work on the implementation of the directive and on the revision of the then effective rules, because, as I mentioned, there were some problems with that. A few regulations were amended, also the Electricity Act, and now we have a brand new regulation on electricity GOs and disclosure. We try to consider all the good practices in Europe, the EX rules of the AIB, and the Reliable Disclosure Project, which also published a number of recommendations. What is crucial, in addition that now we have a good regulation, is that from June this year, GOs that belong to the CAT feed-in tariff support scheme will be auctioned by the Hungarian TSO, MAVIR, which is also the operator of the support scheme. According to the RES directive, in case of supported electricity, the GO's market value should be taken into consideration in the support scheme. And there are some possible solutions for this. One of them is to give these GOs not to producers, but to market participants, suppliers, traders, or end consumers through a competitive process. And that is the aim that the auction will serve from June. This is the legal background of the auctions. Some other important points regarding the new rules. The disclosure obligation of suppliers is now finally linked with GOs, and we already have a residual mix calculation methodology. So from this year, suppliers will be able to use this common methodology, and there will be no contradiction among disclosure statements of the suppliers. MEKH will also supervise these suppliers. And also, according to the directive, MEKH will recognize GOs from other EU countries. For hub members, there is a possibility to trade through the AIB hub, but for other European countries, there will be an administrative procedure, and MEKH will issue a decision after this procedure. So not only for AIB members, but for other EU countries, the recognition of GOs will be possible. The story of MEKH and AIB, it's not a long story. The first contact with AIB was back in 2013, but for years not much happened. We just supplied data with them for the residual mix calculation. In December 2020, MEKH applied for AIB membership, which was granted in next year's May. And then the new amendments of the Hungarian provisions were published. And from February this year, this is a great achievement for us. We are part of the EEX scheme. That was a very hard work for us. The documentation for this membership was elaborated during last year, and also it was needed that the regulation should have been amended. Within this work, new contracts were elaborated. The so-called domain protocol was approved by AIB. This domain protocol contains the whole rules, provisions, procedures, and also practices of a given domain, Hungary. And besides, a number of other documents were finalized and worked out to be part of the EEX scheme. That was an important milestone, and the next will be the first auction in June. For this, the necessary provisions in the commercial code are already approved by MEKH, and now we are working together with HUPX on the HUPX market rules. And also we are working now with our registry supplier, Grexel, on the technical prerequisites of the auctions. We have to bring the data of more than 2,000 power plants into the registry, and monthly the GOs of all these power plants through metering data. So this is a complex work, not only legal but also technical issues arise. But it's sure that via the auctions it will be enabled that these GOs from the CAD support scheme can be used by Hungarian or foreign consumers. So they will remain for consumers. And we hope that the auction will reduce the cost of the operation of this support scheme, because the money, the income should be used for the cost reduction. We are now very curious about the auctions, the exact numbers that will come up this summer. So we are very curious. And this is a good achievement that MEKH could join the AIB and also the EX scheme. We are proud of it, but the fact is that, as you can see on the map, but Ivar also showed you, that Hungary is already the 27th country represented in the organization of AIB and the EX scheme. So I think really it was time to join this organization. Now we expect that the domestic market participants will be able to use this opportunity that they can join the European market through the hub. There is an emerging number of power plants in the Hungarian electricity system that are not supported with CAD, so they can trade their own GOs on a European market now, so that can be a good opportunity to them. We also expect to get to know good practices of other AIB members regarding electricity or another energy carriers as well. So this will surely help us to further improve the Hungarian legislation and regulation. AIB has several work groups, so-called units. We plan to actively participate in these, and being part of the AIB will give an opportunity for us to take part in improving the rules and processes even of AIB, and also to join its common standpoints regarding the European legislation. For example, today's issue is a revision of the RES directive. So plenty of work is behind us, but also ahead of us. As part of AIB, we will make efforts to make GOs an effective regulatory tool in Hungary and in Europe. That's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for your kind attention. If you have any questions, I will be at your disposal in the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ákos. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, you can see all the applause dropping in. So yeah, please do share the reactions, anyone listening. Ákos, we know that the GOs market is just one part of many factors of the market that you're covering, and the work you've done is really great. We can absolutely appreciate the hard work that you've put in to make this happen. And it's great to see that Hungary is now joining the European markets, and we'll continue to see the market grow. Okay, just a quick reminder as well. I can see some questions are already coming in the Q&A, which is great, and we'll come to those at the end of the presentations, just after the panel discussion. So please, any questions that you've got for any of the presenters, please drop them in the Q&A bubble, and we will get to them at the end of the session. Okay, so moving on, the reason why we're all here, right, to learn about the HUPX market. So please allow me to introduce György Istvánffy, the Director of HUPX Markets at the Hungarian Power Exchange. György, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's very nice to see so many people here. I hope this is not only about the good weather that was already mentioned a couple of times, but you are interested in the market itself that we are going to introduce soon. Just give me a second. I try to share my presentation.
All looks good from our side, György. So whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Okay. So let's get this plant and okay. So I think probably most of you know what the HUPX group looks like, but probably it's still worth just a few seconds to spare on this topic. HUPX was established by MAVIR, the Hungarian TSO for power. In 2010, we started our operation on the spot power segment with the day-ahead markets, and then we also established CGEX as operator of natural gas spot exchange. It went live in 2013. And the last part of our group is Hupx, that is operator of derivative energy exchange, and it went live in 2018. We are highly excited about this this new market, the geo market, that is well, basically not an everyday event in market operators' life to basically start a new market segment. I would rather say that is about to happen. I think we or the presenters before me or the elaborated highly the geos, how they look like, what is the role of AIB in this, how the Hungarian registry was connected to the AIB system. But what is very important from our point of view as market operators is that these guarantees of origins are standardized, tradable products throughout the whole Europe, and via the AIB, a highly liquid market is created. That is very important to make a well working geo market in Hungary. So this is something that is very important for us to have in place in Hungary, and I think it's for the good of all the members who will join us in the market we are going to launch. I think in the introduction, Mátyás already told you that there will be two phases of introducing the guarantee of origin market at HUPX, and I think the most important thing for now is the phase one of this single seller model that was already touched upon by Ákos also. But later on, I will also share some information about the phase two, how it will develop in the future. So the first phase, single seller model, the geos that are coming from the feed interim system operated by MAVIR in Hungary will be offered on the geo market. This is I'm going to touch the volumes later on, but this is basically a solid background that we have in place here. So there will be offered geo volumes, of course, on the market always. There will be all the technologies available that are there in the feed interim system. So, but the majority is solar, but we also have wind and well, some biogas, biomass, geothermal, hydro, landfill gas. It's some smaller amounts. What other attributes we have? Of course, the technology is most important, but also the production date is going to be an attribute of the GO that we are offering. The pricing mechanism, this is also very important. Pay-as-bid auctions will be run. So what is important here, that we will be prioritizing the most beneficial bids. So the highest winning bids will be receiving the GOs coming from newer plants. I hope you will like this feature also. So I mentioned seller will be MAVIR. The clearing and settlement is going to be a new thing for us, because in our previous markets we were working with clearing houses, but now this is going to be something new for us. We are going to do self-clearing here. Basically, the clearing will be operated via a bank account that is where the account holder is Hupx. And of course, the settlement of the GOs will be operated by a GO account of Hupx, or via a GO account of Hupx. The guarantee system will be quite simple, as I imagine. It's easy to understand. It will be basically guaranteed via collaterals. So the collaterals will be practically from the buyer side, the amount of money that you will be placing on the bank account of Hupx. And later when well, now the seller is of course MAVIR, but later when there will be more sellers, also the GOs will be collateralized on Hupx GO account. The auction frequency will be quarterly, as from the beginning. Well, of course, we are looking into being more frequent in the future. And well, most probably what we are planning is that in phase 2 we will be having monthly, but we will see how the results will look like. I promised you some facts about the feed-in tariff volumes that are available in Hungary. You can see the last couple of years on this graph. There is, of course, a constantly growing number or volume of installed capacities in the system for the feed-in tariff. You see, I think, well, all of you who are here who are involved in trading, you know that basically the solar capacities are increasing in Hungary quite a rapid pace. You see that there is a huge expected increase in the upcoming years. Also, for the feed-in tariff, it will be like 3,000 megawatts installed capacities that we are expecting by 2024. Regarding the production, of course, as the quite huge chunk of this installed capacities are coming from solar, there is a seasonality in the production. So basically, the last year's feed-in tariff production was 3,000.9 terawatt hours. That is, well, you saw on the last graph that biomass was exiting from the feed-in tariff system by end of last year. So there is an expected decrease in the feed-in tariff production. But I think this is a conservative outlook, because, well, the increasing number of solar capacities will be, of course, compensating this. Because of the seasonality, we also see some huge fluctuation of the offered, the number of offered GOs. in each quarters, because the last quarter's production will be offered in the auction. So, well, of course, summer production will be higher, will result in a higher number of GEOs, while the winter will be much lower. So a couple of words about the phase 2 of the GEO introduction. There will be a multi-seller model. This means that not only MAVIR, but also other GEO holders or producers can sell their GEOs on HUPX markets in the future. As I mentioned, well, of course, AIB countries will be also reachable via this multi-seller models, because of the through the AIB hub, basically all the AIB domains will be or traders coming from each AIB domains will be able to trade on HUPX GEO market. Of course, we are quite flexible with regards to the technologies. Basically, our trading system is planned in a way that will be flexibly accepting any possible technologies that might pop up. There will be an important feature that we are planning with regards to the algorithm. This is preference handling. So if you have a preference for some kind of a technology, then you will be able to set it in the offer that you are submitting, and the algorithm will be able to basically prioritize your offer and allocate the GEOs accordingly. As I mentioned, seller side can be Hungarian or European power plants, and GEO traders basically from all AIB domains. Clearing and settlement will be the same as I introduced in the single seller model. So it will be a self-clearing mechanism via our own GEO accounts and bank accounts. Also prepayment and basically collateralized offered GEO capacities or GEO volumes will be done. And as I mentioned, we are planning with monthly auctions, but we'll see. This GEO market is a first for us in many fields. It means that basically, well, we are operating our markets via well-known trading systems so far. So we are using for power day ahead the EPEX trading system. We are using Global Vision, Trayport Global Vision for CGEX, so gas markets and derivatives markets, and we are using for intraday power markets Deutsche Börse systems. But now for this GEO trading system, we basically developed an own one. So we specified what we would like to see here. We got it developed. So we are very excited on how it will be seen by the traders. What I can tell is that we like it very much. It is a web-based trading system. I think it's quite a user-friendly one that will be a lovable system for you. So I think it is worth for you to join our member testing that is scheduled for April. I think the joining the member testing is open for you. So please enroll this possibility to see how it works. And the other thing that will be a first for us is, as I mentioned, the self-clearing system that is basically described on this screen. This is not only showing the guarantee of origin part of the whole production value chain, but also the power that is shown in gray. But I think we should focus now on the green part that shows the life cycle of GO. So what is happening? Feed producer, so the feed-in tariff producers are basically producing electricity with their renewable systems and sell it to MAVIR. MAVIR, of course, once the renewable power is produced, they will be selling it off on also Hupx markets on the day-ahead and intraday market. But what is a new thing is that based on the final amount of the produced electricity, GO will be introduced. So an automatic procedure is scheduled for the GOs to be listed on the Grexel of MAVIR. Sorry. These automatically generated GOs will be the GOs that are offered on the Hupx market, and this is what you will be able to buy on this single seller model part of this first phase of the GO market. What is very important is that you will not only be able to buy these GOs as a Hungarian Grexel account holder, but also you can buy it as basically a foreign AIB account holder, but then it will be exported towards your foreign account. There will be an extra charge, but I will talk about that later on. And of course, once a GO member has bought the GO, then when the consumption occurs for your consumer, you can cancel it and basically say that the electricity that was consumed was renewable. Regarding the timing of the trading, I think we created here a quite convenient timing for this whole process. Basically, for the collateral placements, we have from T-1, so T is the trading day, T-1 is basically 5 calendar days before, 5 calendar working days before the trading day, you can start placing your collaterals, both GOs and money collaterals. And the collateral placement is ending in T-2 close of business. So I think this is quite a wide date that you can use for this collateral placement. Then, of course, T-1, we will have some processing of the collaterals that needs to be done before the trading itself. On the trading day, you will be able to submit your offers from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's also quite conveniently organized, I think. And of course, after the close of order books, the auction itself will happen, and we will be publishing the results at the latest at 4 p.m. And T+1, we are going to do the settlement and the invoicing of the GOs and the payments. What is also very important, we are planning to have the first auction on 9th of June this year, of course. And this means that the dates as set forth in the upper part of the slide will look like 1st of June you can start the collateral placement, 7th of June this is ending, 9th of June will be the auction and also the publication of the market results, and 10th of June the settlement and invoicing will be done. So regarding, well, this is of course a very important topic, the fees, how it looks like. We are not planning with any entrance fees with regards to this market at all. Of course, we are planning with membership fees, but whoever joins us before the first auction, the membership fee will be 0. Transaction fees are going to be 3 euro cents per megawatt hours of GO. And as I mentioned before, there is an extra charge that is basically a pass-through for us. So there is an export fee that is charged by the Hungarian Energy Authority for exporting of GOs towards other AIB registries. So this is, well, this is set forth in Hungarian forints, it's 5 forints per megawatt hours, but we are transforming it to euros, and it's 1.4 euros roughly today. 1.4 euro cents, of course, per megawatt hours today. Regarding the timeline of the project itself, what we see is that you should, as I mentioned, you should start enrolling for member testing if you are interested, and hope you are interested in that, because it's starting at on the 21st of April according to our plans. So in April, May, we are also trying to do the member admissions, and as I mentioned, 9th of June will be the first GO auction. And phase 2, the exact timing of the phase 2 implementation will be, well, published later on. Please check our website for additional information. We are publishing our documents there. So the membership documents, also the market rules, etc. What you need for the admission is basically the signed membership agreement and also a proof of a valid GO registry account that can be either the Grex operated by MEKH or an AIB, other AIB member, and basically that's it. So I think this is a quite streamlined admission process. And thank you for your kind attention. And here are some contact details that we would like to share. If you have any questions later on, you can of course reach out to us, but also in the Q&A session, we are happy to answer your questions.
Thanks very much, György. Very interesting presentation. That's it. Yep. Please drop the claps and the reactions. Good to show the appreciation for these excellent presentations. Yep, great to see that you've got things all lined up, and we're very much looking forward to seeing the first auction take place in a couple of months. I can see there's quite a few questions coming through the Q&A session already, which is really great. Again, just a reminder, any questions for any of the presenters, please drop them in there. If you are directing them towards someone specifically, then feel free to mark that up in the question as well. If not, then we will just consider who'd be the most relevant person to answer the question. But yes, please keep the questions coming in. Good to see we've already got quite a few. Okay, one more presentation before the panel discussion and the Q&A. So yep, very close to my heart, a colleague, a friend of mine, Lawrence from Argus, not too far away from me in North London. Lawrence, how are you doing?
Very well, thanks, Justin, for the introduction. Let me just unmute myself. Hopefully that's coming through clearly.
Yeah, can hear you very well and can see the presentation. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and I will leave it to you to share some overview of what's happening in the wider European GOs markets.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks for the intro, and also thanks very much to Hupx. Have done a lot of work in the background to make the event possible today. So thank you so much for that and for involving us in this. Very exciting to hear some news from your side on the developing Hungarian GO market. Now, just a brief summary of some of the things perhaps that we've heard today to place in context what I'm going to discuss today from the Argus side. Of course, our core business is reporting on traded prices in these markets, guarantees of origin, as well as, of course, electricity, gas, and other associated markets. We heard at the beginning, if you like, a higher level view on the architecture behind some of these markets from Ivar, and then went down into some more regional details on new developments in the Hungarian market. Very exciting to hear on those. We're going to, if you like, go back up to the higher level view now on the European GO market development. I'm going to share to begin with a few views on liquidity. The GO market has seemed relatively resilient over recent months, certainly in comparison to parallel markets in energy only products, if you like, your electricity markets and your European gas markets, which have experienced somewhat of a liquidity crunch since October 2021. I'm then going to really focus in on the GO market and turn to some recent pricing, as well as some of the fundamental drivers behind the pricing that Argus has seen in the market. A few people have also mentioned as well biomethane today. We'll share a few words just to wrap up with on biomethane market pricing and developments as well, before handing back over to the panel for the Q&A. So without further ado, I'll jump into a couple of slides today beyond the notices. So to begin with, again, I believe there was a brief hint to liquidity and traded volume development in the first presentation that we heard from the AIB, and I'm going to jump into a little more detail on this and a cross section, if you like, of information on traded liquidity in the GO space over recent years from 2019 to 2021. We're looking to build a comparative view, if you like, on GO liquidity in recent years by taking a look at the amount of cancelled certificates, or a byword, if you like, for demand. Now, what we've seen is really relatively little change in a similar shape to the number of own domain GO cancellations over the periods 2019 to 21. And this has been somewhat in sharp contrast to liquidity in some related markets. On the right-hand side here, you've got UK and German power market liquidity. Now, we have to be careful, of course, making GO energy only comparisons, as we heard from AIB earlier. The GO market is, of course, a separate parallel market, if you like, but OTC power market nonetheless. Liquidity began to tighten in the second half of 2021. There was up to 30% less trade in the electricity OTC markets if we look at the German and UK markets from 4Q21 to 1Q22. In contrast, if we look at own domain cancellations in the GO space from October through to December 2021 compared with the previous 3 years, we actually saw a slight uptick in cancellation. So clearly a degree of robustness there in demand for certificates to back energy only supply to transform the molecules that are being delivered from, if you like, neutral molecules to molecules identified according to technology or origin, a source of supply. This slight uptick in liquidity in the final quarter of 2021 compared with previous years, based on own domain cancellations in the GO space, was in very sharp contrast to the parallel natural gas market, of course. Back in October last year, many of you will remember, European natural gas prices rose, placing a considerable burden on market participants' credit lines. Essentially, each molecule became considerably more expensive. And on the right-hand side of this graph here, you can see how TTF liquidity dropped off. So before we jump into a deeper view on GOs, just a word on some of the drivers in the parallel networked industries. German baseload power prices essentially on a short-term basis peaked 3 times since October last year. And you can see that triple peak there on the left-hand side, prompt prices with day 1 and month 1 contracts there. Now, what we've seen on a forward basis is the development of a forward curve moving from having seasonal shape over the period October 21 through to February 21 to actually losing much of that shape in January 2021 on the electricity side. And this was really matched on the gas market, which also lost its usual seasonality. And we saw that stepwise forward curve now on a forward basis. If we take the average March forward contracts for the coming few years. Now, this is a fairly unusual situation to be in, if you like, the energy only markets, a lack of seasonal shape. And another observation we can make is that it seems that the electricity market is, if you like, on base load terms at least, pricing off marginal supply from the natural gas market. Now, of course, different European markets are exposed to that natural gas price in different ways. We see, fairly large outright availability of gas-fired electricity supply in markets like Italy, UK, Spain, Germany. The variation on a relative basis for each market changes considerably. Nonetheless, if we take a look at that marginal source of supply, here we've looked at German capacity and plant efficiency and Italian capacity and plant efficiency for, if you like, those traditional thermal sectors. What we can see is actually on a base load spark spread basis, where you're looking at generating margins for gas-fired plant, offset, of course, for emissions credits, we see around 8.07 of gas-fired capacity priced into the current summer for Germany, around 18 gigawatts priced in for the Italian market. So marginal gas there, if you like. Of course, the gas market recently has been extremely volatile, raising prices across the board and contributing to a significant tightness on the availability, if you like, of money to support trading activity. So stepping away from those parallel energy only markets, let's now look at how some of the geo pricing has developed and move away from the story on liquidity. Guarantee of origin pricing here is essentially reflecting what we do at Argus, looking to provide independent reference prices for some of the most liquid European markets. So we've got our Nordic hydro price, European biomass, Europe solar, and Europe wind. So we're looking to build a technology spread, if you like, for some of the most liquid markets. And we have seen current year vintage geo prices stepping up into 2022. And we'll talk in a moment about some of the fundamental drivers behind that. Another observation we can make is the geo price as a proportion of green-backed supply. So what we're looking to do here is look at the price of a traded geo certificate in the voluntary market, and then look at the electricity price. That's the left-hand graph there. On the right-hand side, we're looking at this as a proportion. So that's a percentage of the total green-backed supply agreement based on either very slightly forward term electricity deliveries quarter basis or day ahead averaged over a 21-day moving average. Now, what we saw in the period of 2020 and 2021, if we took current year geo vintages, was the total proportion of the geo price, if you like, falling throughout the period of the year. Each year. So far in 2022, we've actually seen geo prices making up for as much as 2% of the total cost of supply on a quarter or day basis, if we compare these prices to current year geo vintages of Nordic hydro. This has dropped off recently, largely as a result of geo prices falling somewhat. In any case, I think perhaps one of the morals of the story here is that we have actually seen the total proportion in general increase this year, the value of the geo relative to the total energy supply price. Now, turning to another view on liquidity before we again return to the fundamentals. This is, if you like, a cross-section of the amount of trade that we see at Argus in the various OTC geo products that are available. So we've looked to break this out in percentage terms, so the top 8 most traded geo certificates, if you like. Now, Nordic hydro clearly is still the big traded market, the benchmark market, if you like, with Europe renewable, Europe hydro, and Europe wind products there as well, making up for over 10% of the top 8 traded geo certificates. Now, it's worth noting, of course, that on the Europe renewable side, this also includes biomass geos, so potentially some biomass geo trade there being bundled into a more generic Europe renewable product. So we can look at the total proportion of trade in volume terms, but we can also look at the proportion of trade in terms of the amount of certificates that are the number of certificates, I should say, that are trading. And the picture here is fairly similar, but changes somewhat. In the case of Nordic Hydro, you see around 35% of all of the number of certificates trading are on that Nordic Hydro basis. We see the proportion stepping up slightly higher there for Europe Hydro, Europe Wind, etc. So therefore, potentially slightly smaller clip sizes, slightly higher numbers of trade per volume traded there for some of the non-Nordic Hydro products that we see further on the right-hand side of the graph. What we look to do then, given the, if you like, the large amount of Nordic Hydro GO certificates that are available in the European market, was to look at the basis, the technology spread between those Nordic Hydro certificates and some of those other technologies out there in the European market. Now, historically, we tended to see on the right-hand side here, solar, if you like, at a structural premium to those Nordic Hydro certificates, wind certificates trading at around the level of Nordic Hydro, and biomass structurally discounted. Of course, this is largely the result of biomass not being seen by all on the purchasing side as a suitable means to decarbonize on a voluntary basis their portfolios. More recently, though, and perhaps as a result of the higher total cost of doing business in the energy market per se, we have seen those wind and those solar contracts really trending towards the level of the Nordic Hydro prices that we've been seeing trading in the market. So that's a brief view on the prompt prices. In terms of the forward vintages, we do see still a contango in the guarantee of origin market, and it may be worth noting that's one of the few contangos we still see. What we've done here is taken our Nordic Hydro vintages current year all the way through to 2025. Not a huge differential between current year prices and those for production in 2025, but nonetheless a shallow contango in contrast to the gas and power markets, where of course and other non-renewable markets such as coal and so on, where we've seen very steep backwardation with prompt prices at a significant premium to forward contracts. Now, looking at some of the drivers behind the GO market, I think it's fair to say we have a significant amount of visibility, certainly on the supply side, and of course, given the preponderance of hydro certificates in the market, we can look at hydro stocks. There were a few mentions earlier today already about hydro stock levels and the availability potentially for entry into voluntary traded certificates markets. Now, Nordic hydro stocks began the year significantly lower than average, as did Alpine hydro stocks, potentially tightening supply not only in the physical delivery of electricity into the transmission system, but also of freely available GO certificates to be traded into the system. More broadly, in the electricity market this year as well, we have seen some tightness from lower than average French scheduled nuclear availability, particularly into April and May, compared with a year earlier. Looking at some of the GO price drivers then from an availability perspective as well. Of course, if we turn to the French market, the French auctions more recently have provided a support level for European GOs. This is a large auction market in the European space, providing a price signal, and monthly matching, which began in April of 2021, saw essentially 100% matching between the number of certificates that were made available and the number of certificates sold. Both of those two numbers have risen all the way into March 2022, with the price achieved at the auctions rising, reaching a peak in February 2022, providing a support level for other GO markets. Now, a fairly obvious statement, the amount of renewables that's entered the electricity grid in Europe, broadly speaking, has it of course increased from a solar and wind perspective. We've just taken a view here on Germany and looked on the left at outright generation in terawatt hours per month, and on the right proportional generation of wind and solar relative to some of those more traditional, if you like, thermal sources of supply. The total share of wind and solar has stepped up to as much as 40% on a monthly average basis, from less than 10% we stepped back a decade ago. But of course, historically, not all of this renewable supply has entered the voluntary traded GO markets. So what we've done here is looked at the direct marketing eligible for guarantees of origin in Germany. Now here, we have seen some swapping, if you like, of subsidies for certificates in a higher price environment. And this has led to, if you like, a basis market developing between what is an offer in each space, with participants able to move capacity in and out of schemes on a monthly basis. That graph on the top left shows a large increase in renewable plants leaving the EG subsidy scheme in Germany in favour of selling power through direct marketing schemes to take advantage of rising power prices in the wholesale markets, and of course the geo market prices that we've seen rising as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, some plants have been doing this on a temporary basis. Plants can of course opt in and out of the EEG. Now, looking ahead on the top right-hand side of the screen here, you can see a brief preview of the recently published German Easter package. This is looking to accelerate renewable availability in the German market in light of a likely reduction in the provision of carbon-emitting thermal supply, especially on the gas side. Now, there's a huge increase in planned renewable capacity additions in the Easter package. Just a brief summary of some of this: solar targets were tripled to more than 300 gigawatts by 2035 and 400 by 2040. Onshore wind targets have doubled to more than 150 gigawatts by 2035, highlighted there in the solid blue and yellow columns versus the dotted blue and yellow columns. Now, of course, the speed with which some of that wind can enter voluntary traded markets is somewhat different to solar. Exiting existing subsidy schemes, we do anticipate an increased amount of wind entering up to 2025, with solar filtering in through 25 to 2030. Of course, these two markets, the French and German markets, are not the only markets in town. We've just provided a brief overview of some renewable capacity projections here to provide a view on how much additional supply we may see come into the markets overall. France on the top left, Italy on the top right, of course, the Hungarian market, as we've heard today, adding a significant amount of solar capacity over the coming years, and of course, the Greek market too, adding some solar capacity alongside additional wind supply through to 2030 based on national energy and climate plan data. So that's a brief view on the EU markets. Turning swiftly to the UK, which finds itself, of course, electing to be somewhere in Mid-Atlantic and the moon potentially. We've seen a degree of regulatory uncertainty. On the top right there, you see the number of GOs that the UK imported in 2019-20 year and REGOs exported in the 2019-20 year. In other words, if you like, your supply-demand balance netting off at the UK being a net importer of renewable back supply from the continent over recent years. Now, of course, with the potential for BEIS, which is currently consulting, to ban the import of GOs either in October 22 or April 23, there's been a degree of uncertainty, and this has provided a support level for UK REGO prices, as well as a degree of volatility in the market as well. UK REGOs for non-biomass products have risen to as high as £7 per megawatt hour, a significant premium to those markets we've seen on the continent over the last year or so. So that's a word on the power side. I'm going to turn to biomethane very briefly, just before wrapping up today. I think I've got a couple of minutes left. Now, of course, we've heard already about some views on standardizing and bringing a degree of transparency to the structures behind guarantee of origin trading for biomethane. But biomethane, of course, outputs are determined by differing feedstocks or differing technologies, if you like, crop-based feedstocks and waste-based feedstocks. And many of these waste-based feedstocks are eligible under Annex, under RED 2, and potentially as well in the future under RED 3 for certification as advanced biofuels, meaning they have a very, very wide spectrum of potential applications in decarbonising various sectors of the economy. Now, historically, Of course, biomethane support schemes in Europe, which have been around for quite some time now, have been highly varied. We've had feed-in tariffs, feed-in premiums, green quota and certification systems, as well as in some cases fiscal incentives and investment support schemes. And we are now looking at a world potentially where we could see the increased trade of guarantee of origin certificates for biomethane across Europe in a landscape where we have various overlapping historical mechanisms to provide incentives to both produce and or consume biomethane as a fuel. Now, in terms of the amount of potential biomethane in the European markets, on the left-hand side here, we see European biogases implied production over recent years, and then on the right, the total amount of biogases available compared with natural gas. And obviously, biogases make up for a fraction of the total gaseous supply in the total European gas fuel mix, if you like. However, we could see this grow over coming years. We have 18 BCM of biogas production capacity approximately at present, around 3 BCM of biomethane. This is biogases that have been upgraded for injection into the gas transmission and or distribution systems. Based on forward projections from a number of sources, we see anywhere between 35 to 44 BCM of production capacity by 2030, potentially 95 to 125 BCM by 2050. And this, of course, could potentially be accelerated by the European Union's proposed Repower Europe package, which sees an additional 3.5 BCM of biomethane being added to the natural gas grid per year, given the potential reduction in Russian supply as much as 2/3 in the current year compared with a year earlier. That's 100 BCM of natural gas, a significant chunk out of the market. So what of the biomethane pricing that we've seen more recently? We spoke earlier very briefly about waste-backed biomethane potentially being eligible for use in a number of sectors to decarbonize the economy. Well, as a result of this potential eligibility, we see waste-backed biomethane, or RGGOs, being priced as a significant premium to crop-backed or energy crop-backed biomethane supply entering the grid. And we've taken an example from our Danish RGGO price assessments here. On the right-hand side, similar to the power GO curve on the renewable gas guarantee of origin side, we also see a relatively shallow, but nonetheless a contango with forward vintages being at a premium to current year and year -1 vintages. In terms of the proportion of the total cost of, if you like, green-backed energy supply, a Danish waste-backed certificate plus TTF balance of 2022 prices throughout the first quarter of this year indicate that RGGOs are trading at about 25% of the total energy supply cost, which is a significantly larger proportion than the equivalent electricity market comparison, if you like, if you take your Nordic hydro to German power balance. So there are a few words on recent price developments in the geo market, hopefully some helpful views there. And Justin and I, I'm sure, will be available for any further questions on this, obviously today, but also for follow-up. Thanks very much for your time today, and thank you again to colleagues at Hupx for organising and inviting us to join. I'll end it there, Justin. Back to you.
Yeah, super. Thanks very much, Lawrence. A very nice presentation. And yeah, any emojis of congratulations, please do drop them now. I've got a few thumbs up and applauses coming in. So yeah, very nice presentation, Lawrence. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, thank you to all of the presentations that we've had today. All been very informative, covering different sides of the market, and I think give us a very good basis for having a discussion with a few more participants within the market. And I can see the questions are starting to build up in the Q&A bubble as well. So please do keep those coming in. If you want to direct them to any of the presenters specifically, then absolutely you can include that in the question. Otherwise, we will see who's keen to answer that. Okay, so let's introduce our panel speakers. We have 4 people who are very experienced within the market. We'll just go through them one by one, just to give them an opportunity to say hi and get themselves all set up. So Philip Stravasa from Czech in the Czech Republic. Philip, nice to see you. How are you doing? You're in Prague.
Hi, Justin. Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Happy to join.
Great, thanks, Philip, and we will get to you very shortly with some questions. Lu Wang, STX Group. Lu, how are you doing? Nice to see you here.
Hi, Justin. Yeah, nice to be here as well. Thanks for organizing the workshop, and then glad to share some opinions.
Super, thanks, and we'll absolutely have some opinions from you soon, hopefully. Gabor Denes Sabo from MAVIR, the Hungarian TSO. Gabor, nice to see you here. How are you doing?
Thanks, fine. Hi, Justin, and hi all. I'm also in Budapest, so it's a shiny weather here, and I'm fine. Thanks.
Great, good to hear it, and nice to have you here. And last but certainly not least, Gabor Satmari, who's head of sales at HUPX, also in Budapest. Gabor, how are you? All well?
Hi, Justin. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I'm fine. Thanks a lot. Nice weather, and really enjoyed the conference so far.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you for joining. You'll notice that we did have another participant, Jules Maitre-Prière from MEKH, who's not able to join us at short notice. But I'm sure you'll agree that with the wealth of experience we have on here, we can certainly tackle some of these questions and get some very good insight into people's views here. Okay, so we've got a few questions that we're going to go through first of all, and we can sort of merge this with the Q&A as well. So we've primarily here to learn about what's happening in Hungary and the development of the auctions, the structured market. And, you know, Hungary is joining in with, you could say, a trend, which we're seeing across Europe, which is more and more countries are having these auctions on top of the bilateral trade. So we can start with you then, Philip. As you know, you've been a trader in the market for many years. How do you see the general setup of auctions versus the OTC market? Do you see a preference for using them or an increased preference for using them? And what sort of products do you like to see on them? But in general, how you see the use of auctions versus the OTC market?
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I think we, in recent years, we have seen a couple of markets which established these auctions within the exchanges. So I believe that it has proven that it's still feasible, or it works basically. So from this perspective, it makes me sense. And if I look into current situation of the exchanges, I see them as a spot market supplier, which is for sure good for the clients, be it end consumers or their suppliers, that they have a clear view on the market, and they have a clear view that certain volume will come to the market on the spot basis, and they still have some certainty to source their GOs. Of course, on the other side, there might be kind of disadvantage. It might be kind of like big shock of big volume, which we were concerned, especially related to the French auctions. But it's somehow absorbed and it's working. So I believe that it's still sustainable to have these auctions in the market. Of course, one should tackle a little bit like the timing of the individual auctions to avoid that many auctions will do the same auction within the same time. But I believe that it's something what the exchanges are used to from the other markets and auctions. I believe that currently the exchanges are sourcing the renewable sources from or GOs from renewable sources which are subsidized, which might be tricky into long-term future, because we may see less and less subsidized sources, either due to current high prices or as it's like long-term goal to really have unsubsidized renewable sources on the market. So I see that for sure they should be focusing forward products. Of course, it's kind of as well difficult topic. We know how it goes on the OTC market. The trades are not easily done. One need to really negotiate, moderate it a little bit, which is usually done by brokers. So, but there is a space definitely for that. The second alternative is, of course, to focus demand side as well. So auctions for the end buyers or their suppliers might be an interesting product to introduce in the future. And as mentioned in several presentations, we under the RED 2 or RED 3 later on, we may expect new energy carriers, which will need to be somehow certified as well. So that's how I understand the current position of exchanges and the auctions. I believe that it might have been helpful insight for you.
Absolutely, yeah. No, thanks for that, Philip. I think you raised some really important issues there, and yeah, I would say from the presentation from HUPX as well, they do seem to be aware that, as you said, there will be new energy carriers that will be claiming GOOs. So so long as there retains a level of flexibility in the way that they're able to function and able to adapt to these new markets quickly, then hopefully that the auctions can certainly stay on top of how the market needs to operate. Lou, as you've been in the market for a very long time, and one of the things that Philip said was quite interesting was that sometimes the complexity of negotiating an OTC deal in the GO markets, especially with non-standardized products, do you see that the role of auctions can increase liquidity in the markets, introduce new players due to the simplicity of the way that the trade is conducted, as well as having some sort of protection against counterparty risk?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Justin. The OTC market, of course, definitely involves lots of negotiation on the details of the trade. That's largely depends on the buyer's wishes, right? So if they demand a certain GO production from a certain country or month, then this might be more difficult to find than a very generic IB GOs. So the auction will provide only what they can collect from the producer, all the subsidized volumes. So I can see its addition to the market providing liquidities, but might not necessarily meet the demand of some buyers' specific wishes. So I think this will still parallel running next to each other. The people who prefer GOs from certain countries or from certain technologies might not go on to the auction to buy them. And also, if buyers just want to buy unsupported GOs, then they can also not buy it from any auctions.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Thank you for that. We've got two Gabors, so I'll try and avoid any confusion as to who I'm referring to. So Gabor, HUPX, maybe be a good opportunity to point out the challenges that might arise in terms of people wanting to potentially buy more specific products and also adapting to the new energy carriers in the market. We already saw from György's presentation that you are planning to adapt to these. Do you feel that's something that you'll be able to do quickly, and you're very much in contact with the market about?
Yeah, well, as György also explained, the first phase is the single seller model. So first, this is now the main focus. But of course, we understand, and because of the various things that just mentioned by Lou or Philip, the future must be a different setup for the auctions. So more sellers, probably different technologies, and probably in the later years, GOs which are not coming from subsidized sources. So that is definitely something we are already calculating with and planning with. But of course, in the first phase this year, we are doing the single seller model from the Hungarian GO feed-in tariff system. So this is a bit different situation at the moment compared to what we are planning in the next coming years.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds very fair. Just jump to Gabor at MAVIR as well. I think this is a good point to raise one that we had considered before. As we go further forward, where there may be a more demand for unsubsidized renewables, do you see potentially an increase in this in Hungary in terms of more renewables in the unsubsidized market operating rather than going through the structured feed-in tariff schemes?
Thanks for the question, Justin. But to be honest, GO market can make a new source of revenue in the calculations for market participants. But honestly, I do not think that that the GO market will be a driver for non-subsidized renewable energy. In Hungary, we have a feed-in tariff system at the moment with an increasing number and building capacities. So I think this will be the first point or first source for GO market in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that sounds a fair comment, especially you know, when you want to have your financing locked in and you have a steady feed-in tariff or premium for a long period of time. It still does seem a pretty attractive option, and obviously, of course, still gives the GOs available for the local market. Okay, one thing that I guess the exchanges do tend to bring to the market is price transparency. Whether you have a reserve price or a publication of the prices afterwards. The GOs markets have for quite a long time been fairly opaque, and price transparency often seen as a barrier to some participants arriving in the market and participating. Philip, as a trader, obviously you've seen the market develop over many years, and I would say the transparency is increasing. Do you still see price transparency as a barrier? Is it something that many of your customers require a bit more clarity on?
Well, good question. From my perspective, I have to say that currently, as a trader on GO market, I have quite good transparency and quite visibility of the market, either via brokers or via Argus media or exchanges as well. So many information about the pricing is available on the market, but I have to say that it's rather for me as a trader with certain volume. I would say when it comes to smaller suppliers, for example, here in Czech Republic or in other countries in Central and Eastern Europe, I still see that there is no such a transparency, and they don't have like 100% view on the pricing and the situation in the market. So from that perspective, there is still some work ahead of us, and yeah, exchanges absolutely might be one of the sources.
Yeah, that sounds very fair. Lou, be good to get your thoughts on this as you know, a multi-commodity brokering firm looking at the GOs not just for power but also for biomethane, which Lawrence had talked about, and also we heard that HUPX are looking to consider in the future. Do you still see price transparency as a big gap in the market and something that needs to be developed?
I mean, currently there are multiple sources where you can get a good view of the historical price, as what happened yesterday, a few days ago, what happened in the previous auctions. And then auction, obviously, at each auction, when we know what price had been closed, it does serve a price discovery mechanism and, you know, provide to the market where people would be likely to buy and sell. But then the auction itself is also not because it's a one single seller market, right? So it doesn't give the full picture of the whole supply and demand in the market. And also, I still definitely see that price for transparency is an issue in the market. Also, not only but the price, but also the liquidities, right? So because of there's no single exchange at the moment, at any moment, even on the best price, if the buyer or seller doesn't know that I'm offering the best price, then they cannot reach out to me. So there's no way for as a trader to show to the market that I'm actually showing the best price. So this is definitely have been challenges sometimes to say, okay, you know, we want to engage with the market, providing the best possible price, but at the same time, they have to be known, the price has to be known, and then us as the counterparty has to be known to the buyer and seller. Otherwise, if the connection is not made, then there's still no price transparency to lots of individual buyer and sellers.
Okay, yeah, no, very good points, and yeah, I'm sure it's a challenge that we'll continue to face, especially with the new energy carriers and those markets still remaining very opaque. Just want to switch to the demand side now, because it does become quite easy to get caught up in supply in these markets, which is often the focus. Gabor, Hupx, we saw in the presentation from Ákos that there's still quite a small percentage of consumption covered by GOOs in Hungary. I think he said it was around 2.5% last year. Where do you see the demand coming from in the near term? Do you think it's going to be more industrial companies or suppliers offering green tariffs? What's the general picture that you see emerging there?
Thanks. Well, as you mentioned, Ákos' presentation, there was roughly, I think, around 1 terawatt-hour in the last 2 years, which was a stable demand in Hungary. And also, I think we have to add an additional half or 1.5 terawatt-hours, which is ex-domain cancellation. Maybe Philip can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically this altogether is roughly the Hungarian demand side, which is of course driven by Hungarian energy consumers who would like to get their sources from a renewable one, and also would like to contribute to the renewable energy sector's growth. So I think there is generally this sort of demand, which is of course can be supported by international brokers, suppliers who can probably buy these GOs and sell it in other markets in the EIB market on the long run. So I think in probably the next few auctions, we will see mostly the energy suppliers and brokers being active, because I can also confirm that based on the conversations we had so far with future members. But in terms of industrial demand, I would say that the Hungarian market is already going in the same direction as Western Europe, that more and more multinational big companies and smaller ones as well would like to have their share of GOs.
Yes. Okay. Yep. No, that sounds fair. I think, being connected to the wider markets will absolutely create demand. One thing that we'd mentioned before is the potential export demand, and Lawrence, my colleague, brought up the fact that the scheme where EU GOs can be imported into the UK, usually at a premium. We see them trade at a premium throughout the market and in some of the auctions. Is this something that Hupx would like to, I guess, potentially capture and make the sellers aware that this is going to be available for maybe 6 months, maybe another year, but to try and take advantage of that while it's still a possibility?
Sure, we would like to do auctions with certain criteria that matches these needs and demands on markets like the UK or basically anywhere in the EIB system. But yes, I think the advantage here is that most of the GOs are coming from technologies like photovoltaic, which were recently built. There are some bigger plants, but also really small ones captured in this feed-in tariff system. So I think these criteria are actually also helping our buyers, that they can use it all over Europe. I would like to hope, basically. So yes, definitely something that we would like to assist in terms of data. Also, before the auctions, a list of commission date, for example, technology, size, everything hopefully will be there and available. So that's what we are working on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to the other Gabor, MAVIR. Part of the market developing, right, in terms of GOs involves an increase in renewable supply, and we already saw some projections for how solar capacity is going to grow significantly in the coming years in Hungary. With increased intermittent renewable generation, then that naturally poses challenges to the grid. How do you see the general grid developments in terms of being able to accommodate this growing renewables? Is it something that's becoming a challenge now, or you're likely to see that way in the near future?
To be honest, personally, I'm not the most prepared person for this question, because I work on another department of of MAVIR. Sorry. But of course, MAVIR faces with new demands and also with new type of generation. So MAVIR and also as other TSOs in Europe, across Europe, are developing its system for the weather-dependent production as well. So from personally point of view, I can say that with such a big share of solar or PV production, the storage facilities should be very welcome in our grid, but it is not allowed to settle these by MAVIR. So it should be developed by the market participants. I think this could broaden the market of GOs as well in the future.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Just sticking with the demand side of the market, Philip, again, as someone who's been active in the market for a while, how are you seeing the demand side develop in terms of corporate customers requiring these more for sort of carbon disclosure platforms, or also local energy suppliers? Are you seeing also perhaps demand grow for more granular country-specific projects in Europe, or do you think people are still happy with sort of the fairly generic European GOOs?
Yeah, from my experience within countries like Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria, where we have some sales activities to the end customers, or used to have some sales activities to the end customers. I see that the demand is definitely growing in these countries. We are really following, still having some kind of gap to the Western Europe, but we are following the trend, so trying to tighten the gap. What concerns the demand, in most of the cases, I would say 80–85% is more or less general, in a way that they need some renewable from EU, or sometimes they ask for the country origin in a specific country, or they want solely hydro, but nothing really special in most of these 85% cases. From time to time, there is, let's say, much more defined request in terms of for example, CO2, which is not incorporated, and it's a shame that it's still not on GOOs available, but they request from us the CO2, because CO2 is what it matters, what matters. So yeah, sometimes there are some specific markets or requests and on the details on the GOOs.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Lou, do you have any thoughts on that as well? Obviously, someone who is in the market matching up the supply side with the demand side. How do you see the demand developing in terms of the type of customers that are now looking to buy GOOs, and also the level of granularity that people are requesting in the products?
Yeah, thanks. We haven't seen anything particular trends that clients switching from supported to unsupported, or the other way around, or from more generic to specific, or the other way around. But mostly we see some clients are quite price sensitive. I say they would prefer a certain regional technology, but if that premium for that specific regional technology exceeds certain threshold, then you say, okay, then I will just still fall back to just general AIBs or any tech, right? So so in general, we don't see any particular trends, but when the spread between the specific and the general become too big, then we do see people tend to fall back to the generic ones.
Yeah. Okay, that's very fair point. Just a couple more points here then before we go into the Q&A, because we've got quite a few questions that have come now, and we can ask some of the questions to the presenters and also share some around the panel as well. Just a sort of wider outlook at the markets. We'll just stick with you on this one, Lou. Demand is increasing. We've seen how it has done over the last few years, and as companies push for more mechanisms, more transparent mechanisms to increase their decarbonisation requirements. But also on the supply side, countries are increasing drastically. We already saw in Germany their targets for renewable capacity. What's your sort of long-term view on prices? Is the in terms of the supply demand balance, is the increased supply going to weigh on prices, or the increased demand going to increase prices? How do you generally see it?
Well, thanks. That's a multi-million-dollar question. I mean, it's very difficult to say. We definitely see, especially after the current Ukraine-Russian crisis, the European countries do seem to want to increase their investment in renewable energies. But at the same time, we do see the supply and demand, the issue is still very urgent in terms of reduce the carbon footprint. I definitely think that in the coming time, probably policy-wise, there could be more dramatic changes to make basically country or consumer or corporate to be more green or try to achieve their carbon neutral goal a bit earlier. Like the fuel mix exposure could be a help, and it's very difficult to say.
Yeah, no, I think you raised some very interesting points there, and I think you're right that depending on how the national demand schemes develop, which regulatory changes can have a huge impact on that, then that would be a huge driver in the prices. Philip, again, just a sort of wide view on how you see the markets developing, or any sort of particular specifics in regulation that could affect the markets, or the general balance between supply and demand. Are you sort of expecting prices to rise with the higher corporate demand, or generally the increased supply in the market will keep a lid on them?
Thank you. I mean, as said, it's not that easy to answer that the market will go that or either other direction. But I believe that currently, under the situation in Ukraine, under the war, which we can see, I have to say that in the very beginning, I was very scared that the GO prices will collapse. That was my first impression that people will start to really sacrifice these kind of luxury goods, if I may call it this way. And it did not happen. Of course, it's still quite early to set the final statement about this, but I still see many companies requesting the GOOs, buying them, and for me, it provides certain confidence that the market is already matured and that it has a potential at least remain at these levels, which we can see currently on the market. So this is, let's say, just one comment to the price. The second one, which was somehow mentioned, is the full mix disclosure, which has been introduced in some countries and which might be a way how to boost the GO market. Of course, it matters how to implement it, whether it should be on the production side or consumption side. This is something what really would need to be synchronized across the Europe, because this would be kind of or via in the AIB, because this would be kind of really basic building block which needs to be properly defined, same across the all countries. I believe that the first stage, as a first kind of step to this full mix disclosure, might be a possibility to issue any GOO for any or any power generated in a given domain or country as a member of AIB. So this might be a good way how to start with it, and then we will see whether the full mix disclosure come or not. It will depend on the customers in the end.
Thanks, Philip. That's a very good point. Actually, if I can just direct this one to Gabor Hupx as well. Philip, talking about GOOs being issued for all energy carriers. Do you see there could potentially be some demand in Hungary, for example, nuclear GOs for consumers to be able to at least document locally sourced electricity or low carbon electricity? Is that something that you could potentially see developing?
To be honest, I cannot really at this point imagine how with these kind of new fuels or new type of GOs could form the market. But what I can see is that it's definitely an important part, or basically in my previous firm when we were looking for industrial customers' needs, it is definitely one interesting and important demand that they would like to help and provide support for the regional renewable investments. So in terms of anything which is actually taking place on the production side on the same country that they are also consuming power, could be something of interest. And I think that is really the point what Philip just mentioned regarding the war, that it is something that the customers also would like to participate in helping basically renewable production in an active way. And yes, the current really high prices might affect them because they need to pay higher prices for the sole regular energy consumption, and also the producers are not that forced into selling GOs. But it's really nice to see that it is a mature market, and I think this regionality is something which you can, for example, also experience or observe in the Netherlands. You can also see in some places that for some countries it's really important to consume their own or use their own GOs, and I think probably in Hungary we hopefully move in that direction as well. I don't know how much I could help you with this.
No, but yeah, very good, very interesting points there. Yeah, thanks, Gabor. What I'm going to do now, because we've only got about 10 minutes or so left, and we've got quite a few questions in the Q&A bubble. Some really good questions in here as well, and I can see we've got some of the presenters back too. So some of these we can address to the presenters, and some we can stick with on the panel. So thanks to everyone who's submitted any questions. Keep them coming. We have still got some time if anybody wants to ask any more questions. What I will do is go for the ones that have been upvoted the most first, as I guess we can assume that those are the ones that most people are at least declaring that they want to hear answered. We've got one here which I think we can ask to Ivar from AIB, because this did come up in your slide. Hi, can see you again. Back just in time for the Q&A. Yeah, I know this. There was a sort of a fairly high level data point to show that Hungary was importing effectively a lot of hydro GOs. Are you able to shed some more light on where exactly that's originating from?
Well, not specifically towards Hungary. I have not looked at those statistics, but historically, I would say most of the, or not most, sorry, that's wrong. But Norway is a large supplier of hydro GOs to the European market, both Germany and other countries. And also, I think Spain has and Portugal, which are also AIB hub connected, also have a significant proportion of hydro production. To my understanding, most of the French hydro and other Central European hydro producers, they're more consumed locally. But this is not something I can back up with percentages and numbers. It's just my impression. Over time, I can say that Norway alone is producer of roughly 140 terawatt hours of hydro GOs per year, and most of this is exported. So Nordic hydro is basically, if you look at Green Fact and others, this is a specific price point for GO prices, and this is mostly Norwegian hydro. So the bulk, normally when I talk about prices, I say that sort of the staple price, the lowest bar for GO prices, that's the unspecified Nordic hydro, and then you have other flavors and varieties of GOs with a higher price point than the Nordic hydro.
Okay, thanks, Ivar. Yeah, I will just add to that as well that some of the news that's come out of Hungary over the last couple of years, where some companies have been signing PPAs They have certainly mentioned in that as part of that they've been taking a Nordic Hydro GOO. So I think the default response that anyone can go with is the Nordic Hydro, as there's so much of it in the market. So I think it's fair to assume that certainly be a huge proportion of that coming from there. I've got one other question for you as well, Ivar, that's been submitted in the Q&A, which is about VERs, so the voluntary emissions reductions market. What's the AIB's role there? Is it anything that you are looking to develop, anything sort of standardized for, or how are you looking at potentially helping the market develop there?
There is an ongoing discussion within the AIB to add more fields to our certificates in order to allow for this. But I must say that this is a discussion where there is some serious opposition also within the organization, because so I can't say what the outcome of the discussion is going to be. And the point is that some wants to use the GO for as much to use the sort of existing certificate for as many purposes as possible, whereas others are more hesitant and want to keep it purer, a guarantee of origin, and not add all these other potential fields to it. And the reasoning why some are trying to be less agile in this approach is that, of course, most of the issuing bodies are government appointed organizations, and it's difficult for us to work outside the mandate we were originally given. And also, as issuing bodies, we need to make sure that the information we provide on a certificate is 100% accurate and safe. And a lot of these assumptions when it comes to CO2 emissions from produced megawatt hour is estimates and not very good figures, especially when it comes to older production devices. So that's where the discussion stands. Some sees that this is a very important tool and wants to use an already established tool to meet this or to help in this aspect, whereas others are more hesitant. So I can't say where we're going, but I can say that it's something that we are discussing, and it's not an unfamiliar discussion for us.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. One other for you, Ivar, I think this is probably directed to you, which is regarding energy losses and how this is potentially accounted for in the geo tracking system.
Ooh, that's a technical and very good, a very good question. When it comes to the GO system, we issue GOs for the production fed into the grid at the metering point. So energy losses is not accounted for when issuing GOs. So if you want to include energy losses in the GO system, it needs to be the TSOs or DSOs that acquire and cancel GOs for the losses that happen in their own grids. And I know some TSOs and DSOs are doing this for the time being, but the GO system itself takes into the amount of, or counts the electricity that is fed into the grid. And of course, you know, it would be impossible if the GO system should take grid losses into account when issuing, because it's impossible to measure from this production device and that production device how much is going to be a grid loss, because it will take the temperature at the time of production and the potential congestion in the grid, etc. There are so many factors that goes into grid loss that you don't know at the hour of production how much would actually go into, how much would actually be lost in the grid. So with the structure we have, the logical way to solve the grid loss issue would be that DSOs and TSOs purchase GOs to count for their losses in their own grids.
Okay, super. Thanks for the clarification there, Ivar. Very, very useful to know. We have some questions here for MEKH as well, for Ákos, if you are around. Yes, hi Ákos.
Hi.
Okay, we've got one here. So are the Hungarian GOs, will they be exportable by default, or would the generators need to specify whether, or the TSO need to specify whether the GOs would be cancelled within Hungary or exported ahead of being issued?
All right. So thanks to the joining to the EX scheme from the 1st of February, all GOs that refer to electricity generation happened after this date, so 1st of February 2022, will be exportable through the hub. And those GOs that refer to electricity that were produced before the 1st of February are not exportable through the hub.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And another question here for you, Ákos. Is it only the FiT GOs for the feed-in tariffs that will be tradable in the auctions, or how about potentially through any other support schemes, or looking further down the line, either a secondary market?
Yes, in these auctions, which will begin this June, only the CAD feed-in tariff GOs will be sold and will be exportable. Other GOs from other support schemes, premium support schemes, or without any support will be able to be sold, but not by not on these auctions, but bilaterally by the market participants.
Okay. And just lastly, is there much more that needs to be done in terms of developing the market rules for GOs, or any further regulation that you see being implemented in the near future?
Not now. We made big changes from the beginning of this year. Now we will look at the auctions, look at how the current provisions work, and if needed, of course, we will make steps to further improve the legislation or just the procedures. But now we don't have any idea to improve them.
Okay, that's great, thanks. And actually, just one that I had mentioned to Ivar before, maybe you might have any more insight on, which was regarding the hydro GOs that were redeemed in Hungary. Do you have any other insight as to which markets they may be coming from?
Yes. I think Ivar was quite full with his answer. We have all the data regarding the imported GOs to Hungary. And yes, it came from multiple countries from Europe. Of course, as many of us know, Norway is the most important exporter of hydro GOs. So there are Norwegian GOs in the mix. And maybe one country should be added beside what Ivar mentioned, Bulgaria. We recognized a big amount of Bulgarian GOs in the past years. But I wouldn't like to mention exact numbers because there are not so many market participants on the field, and I don't want to share too much information about the market parties. But hydro GOs came from several countries in Europe, maybe Norway, Bulgaria, and the others Ivar mentioned are correct.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Ákos, for confirming that. Okay, we're almost at the end of the allotted time. Just one other question, which is quite an interesting one, which has come in the direction of Argus. So maybe I can get some conversation going on that one, which is whether there is increased interest in GO swaps. So potentially somebody who'd signed a PPA. The example given here is for Dutch GOs and potentially selling them to buy something like Nordic hydro GOs. What I would say have observed in the market, there's certainly swaps going on in terms of technologies in some markets, because yeah, as this question sort of alludes to, if you take a market like the Netherlands, for example, where there's quite high demand for the local GOs, especially the Dutch wind ones, and so the prices are significantly higher than the generic European-wide ones. So it seems there is certainly the potential for capturing this difference. Maybe I'll just open this one to Lou as well, as you're sort of active quite widely in the European markets. Is this something, a trend that you potentially see emerging in terms of swaps nationally across GO markets?
We haven't seen anyone specifically ask for this kind of swap, but then when you're doing a swap, you're essentially doing 2 trades at the same time. I think on the back, there will be definitely, let's say, participants who are trying to capture this price difference, but might not necessarily do it at the same time. So we might not see it as a swap. So he might, let's say, the Dutch seller might just decide, okay, now we have this amount of GEO, let's sell now. And then later they might just say, oh, now I need to buy some GEOs, and then maybe the Nordic. So we will see them. Could be on the back, they could do this trade, but it might just over different over time span. So we might not see it as a swap, but this is definitely happening.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Lou. Yeah, I think you're right, especially as we have more participants in the market, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these kind of products, as it increases liquidity in the market, and so encourages people to have more options with their trading activity. Okay, well, we've gone just over the time now, but I think this is a good time to wrap it up. This has been a very, very insightful event, a really good presentation. So I'd like to extend my thanks to everyone who's given a presentation today, also to all of the panelists for sharing their opinions on the market and being forthcoming with how they see things being developed. Also, of course, a huge thanks to Hupx for arranging the event. We're very excited to see the auctions launch in a couple of months and to see how the market develops going forward. So yeah, thanks again to everyone, and also, of course, to everyone who's participated in the audience. The recordings will be available afterwards, and I'm sure if you have any follow-up questions that weren't answered today, then feel free to reach out to anyone via Hupx or myself, and we'd be happy to speak to you in future. So yeah, thank you very much, and let's go and enjoy the rest of the sunshine. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, and
Bye.
thanks a lot for Rika and Judith as well for organizing it from the background. Thanks, Justin, for a perfect moderator role, everyone. Thanks, bye.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.